Hello, gang, and welcome back to Freakish Fridays. Tattooed Biker here with you. And tonight I'll have one creepy topic. I'll be reading 3 true, terrifying reports and encounters of Dogman type cryptids from Maryland and Pennsylvania. So grab your silver bullets and just enjoy the ride. Number 1. Dear Tattooed Biker, I was a Baltimore police detective, and at the time, in early 2021, I worked directly out of the Northern District in the city. On the night in question, I was in my office at home, late at night in suburban Howard County, Maryland. I live alone. I would often find myself unable to sleep at night, so I would head to my office to work. That particular night, I was going through a case file that I was working on. That's when I heard an unusual noise. It was just different from anything I was used to hearing around the house, and it caught my attention. Not to mention, it was around 2 o'clock in the morning. It sounded like something heavy was hitting the ground. It was coming from the yard behind the house. I stood up and I cocked my head to the side to try and pinpoint the exact location, but as I listened closer, I realized that it sounded like it might be actually closer to the house, like right outside the kitchen in the back. I stepped away from my desk and I moved towards my office door. My office was just down the hall from the kitchen, so I opened the door slowly and stepped out to investigate. But first I listened again to make sure I was correct on the direction it was coming from. Sure enough, I heard it again from the area outside the kitchen. I started to make my way down the hallway, and as I got closer, the noise got louder. I reached the kitchen, and I looked towards the door. The noise had gone silent, almost like whatever was making the noise knew I was listening. I slowly and very quietly opened the door to the outside. When I did, I was shocked at what I was looking at. Standing right there on the patio, moving around and making the noise, was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen before. It was about 7 feet tall and totally covered in black and reddish-brown fur. It had a long snout with teeth protruding at all sorts of odd angles. This creature turned towards me when the door opened, almost like it instinctively knew I was there. I was totally quiet when I opened the door. The creature quickly focused on me and lunged towards me, making a hissing noise. I quickly stepped back inside and shut the door. I had to think fast and determine a suitable plan of action. I decided to head back to my office, where I hoped to watch it undetected from my office window. I proceeded to look through the window, but it wasn't long before I heard the sounds of the creature breaking into the house through the kitchen door. I pulled my weapon and aimed it down the hallway. As I slowly opened the office door, I could hear but not see the creature in the kitchen. I listened as it was moving around with a lot of force and stepping heavily on the wood floor. I could also hear it snorting as it moved about. It sounded just like something out of a horror film. I thought if I just stayed quiet, it might leave, which would have been the optimal outcome. I listened to it for a while it moved around the kitchen, but then I heard it go into the dining room. I could hear the glass breaking and furniture being shoved around. It seemed to be very angry. I finally opened my office door all the way and stepped out completely into the hallway. I slowly walked towards the dining room with my gun still raised. As soon as I got close, I peeked my head around the corner. It turned its head towards me and instantly started to growl. It had this angry look on its face with a human-like expression. I sensed that it wanted to tear me apart right then and there. But instead of rushing and attacking me, it suddenly went silent again, and then it quickly rushed back through the kitchen and hurled itself through the back door. I didn't know what to think at that point. On one hand, I was relieved that it had left, but at the same time, I somehow felt concerned that it might return at some point. I decided then and there that I would find out more about this creature. My confusion and fear turned into anger. I wanted to know who or what this thing was and why it had come into my house. I've done a lot of research, mainly online, but it's been difficult to find anything that really matched what happened. I wondered why it came into the house and what it was looking for. The other descriptions online were generally similar. It was bipedal, with pointed ears, large, yellowish eyes, and canine teeth. It also had a very pungent, sulfur-like odor that I can still smell in my memory. My research on Google led me to your channel and my messaging you my experience. I have many questions and would like to see your viewers' thoughts and comments on my encounter. Yes, I still live in the same house, but I currently work for another local law enforcement department. I haven't seen the creature since that night, but I instinctively know that it still roams in my area. For obvious reasons, I wish to remain completely anonymous and discreet about my encounter because I don't want to ruin my credibility at the department. Thanks for understanding. Number 2. Hey TB, this encounter occurred just south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in October of 2018. I'm a professional photographer and I work throughout the region. I've been fortunate enough to have a successful business, great clients, and a beautiful landscape to work with. I went out one spring day for a wedding engagement shoot. The couple had specifically chosen the abandoned Piney Fork Tunnel for the location. I was familiar with the spot, so I agreed. We shot at a few other sites first, and then I met them out there, late in the afternoon, for the best lighting. I picked a good spot and started working. Everything was running smoothly at first until we started hearing the sounds coming from somewhere inside the tunnel. It was long enough that it was dark in the middle, so we couldn't see anything past a few hundred feet. It sounded like someone was moving around in there. We tried to ignore it, and I just kept taking pictures, but the noises got louder, like it was coming closer to us. The couple was now more uncomfortable, and they looked tense in the pictures. So I suggested just wrapping it up, but they wanted to finish. I got in another few shots before we heard the growling. We stared into the tunnel petrified. The sounds had been unsettling, though not actually concerning, but the deep growling meant something very different. It sounded large and threatening. After a quick discussion, we decided to leave and go to a backup location. As I was packing my lenses, the couple walked to the car. The growling continued and sounded as if it was getting still closer. There was also a scraping sound. I panicked, grabbed my stuff, and ran for the car. I got in and immediately locked the doors. The couple was already pulling out of the drive, but I had parked facing the other way and needed to turn around. As I did, there was a brief second where my running lights shined into the tunnel entrance. In that second, I saw the source of the sound. It was huge. It was definitely not a stray dog and many times larger than a German shepherd, and it was standing on its hind legs, although bent forward. This beast was nearly 7 feet tall. The head was covered in thick fur, and it had a dog-like type ears sticking up on top of its head. I couldn't see the features clearly because it was too far away, but I saw the eyes reflecting in the light. The eyes had a deep orangish-yellow color. I had absolutely no idea what I was seeing, but it walked on 2 legs. Then I blinked and it was simply gone. I followed the couple to the next location. When we got out, I asked them if they had seen anything in the tunnel, but they said they hadn't. I wasn't sure if I should tell them what I saw because it all just sounded too crazy, even though they had heard the growling, so I just kept the details to myself. We finished their session as fast as we could. A few days later, I was sorting through their photos and I got to the tunnel photos. As I had predicted, most were not usable because the couple was too tense and uncomfortable in their poses. I looked through them carefully, trying to find the best ones to include, not wanting the location to be a total loss. In the last few images, I saw something weird. It looked like a glare or a light flare over the guy's shoulder. I zoomed in and played with the lighting until I saw it more clearly. It wasn't a lens flare. It was two yellowish eyes in the darkness of the tunnel. They appeared in each of the last few photos, and it was proof of what I'd seen. The creature in the tunnel was real. I knew I couldn't include those in the portfolio, not knowing what was leering behind them. Thank you for reading this. If you use it in a video, let me know. Signed, Ken. Number 3. Dear Biker, my wife and I witnessed a Dogman-looking creature Monday night, August the 7th, 2023, while driving northbound on Route 65, south of Rockland Drive, just south of Hagerstown, Maryland, around 11 p.m. at night. We had just left the AC&T Travel Center that's located at the intersection of Route 65 and Lappins Road after eating dinner there. It was dark out, with the only light illumination being that from my own headlights, some street lights, and headlights from a single approaching car. At the initial time of witnessing the creature, the approaching car was maybe 500 feet in front of us. I was driving and my wife was in the passenger seat. As we were approaching Rockland Drive, something immediately caught my attention in my left peripheral. When I looked over, I saw what appeared to be a Dogman-looking creature running at a super fast pace, right towards the road from an open field. I quickly realized that if I maintained my driving speed, I might actually hit it if it continued coming across the road, so I immediately came down pretty hard on the brakes. As it got closer to the road, my headlights put some limited illumination on the creature, but I never got closer than approximately 25 to 50 feet from it. As soon as I hit my brakes, my wife exclaimed, "What the hell is that?" as it got up by the road. The approaching car started to make it harder to see due to its own headlights, and we lost sight of it, never to be seen again once the car had passed us. We don't know if the creature crossed behind the passing car or not, as we never witnessed it actually come onto the road. As crazy as it sounds, I don't know if it actually may have hurtled our vehicles and we didn't see it do that or what. With its speed and build, I would have to say that it may very well have the ability to do so, but obviously I can't say for any certainty. We were both very shaken by what we had just witnessed. My wife and I described our accounts of what we witnessed very similarly. It was running upright on two legs, eastbound, from my left to my right, from an open field, directly towards the road. It had dog-like legs, V-shaped with its knees most forward, traveling an estimated 30 to 35 miles per hour. I've never seen anything on two legs run so fast in my life. Its legs were significantly smaller in proportion to the upper body. It was kind of narrow at the waist, and its body got larger, wider, and bulkier through the torso from above the waist up to its shoulders, being largest in the chest area. Its head was pointy, with a snout, with two upright pointed ears. It was completely black in color, and appeared to be fully covered in fur or hair, except around the face and snout area. Neither of us is super confident of seeing a tail, as we were both more focused on other aspects of its build. All I can say that my absolute first thought when seeing it, I immediately recognized it as being a werewolf or a dogman, and they typically have been described as having a large bushy tail. My wife said the very first thing that caught her focus was how fast it was running, and the shape and look of its head. She said she then took notice of its uniquely shaped legs. She's not super familiar with the cryptid field, but when I showed her several artists' renditions of what a werewolf or dogman may look like, She absolutely agreed that they were extremely similar to what she had seen. I also agree that this is what I witnessed as well. Once we got home and continued to discuss this encounter, I began thinking the whole thing through, to try and debunk it, or come up with some kind of logical explanation as to how this may have just been an illusion, or whatever you want to call it. I've traversed this road in both directions, probably well over 100 times in both day and night settings over the years. Clearly never having anything anywhere close to this experience there ever before. I kept picturing it in my head, the area in which we witnessed this. For the life of me, I was nearly certain that there was not a single thing in that field that could have possibly reflected off any light, any structure, a fence, or a wall to create a shadow effect. We drove back to this area later, as I wanted to take the time to see if what we saw had been somehow an odd shadow effect that had been created by the headlights of my car and or the approaching car. We went back in the daylight and again at night, and confirmed that the field was wide open. There was absolutely nothing for light to reflect off of. We recreated the event as I drove the same direction, at the same location, with oncoming traffic, and wasn't able to reproduce a single aspect of what we had seen. This has left both my wife and I to conclude and be convinced that what we had witnessed was a real, physical creature. While doing some light online research on possible similar sightings, I came across some articles about a similar creature. It has been documented to have been seen in the Gambrel State Park and all along the Catoctin Mountains between Frederick, Wolfsville, Thurmont, including in Cunningham Falls State Park, where 2 park rangers claim to have witnessed the creature. After reading the creature's descriptions from these witnessed accounts, I had my wife read them for herself. At this point, it's our belief that this is the very creature that we had witnessed that night. Signed, Danny. And there you have it. 3 bone-chilling encounters with the cryptid Dogman. I really hope you enjoyed these eerie stories and found yourself captivated by the mysteries that surround these creatures. If you have any encounters or stories to share, be sure to let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel to stay updated on all things unexplained and unsolved. So until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you on down the road a ways. Biker, out.